Over 300 strikes landed and only 26 absorbed. You'd think those were typos, right?
Well, it sounds like a video game score.
It does. But it's not. Those are the real stats from one of Jasmine Jasudavicius' recent wins and her journey to that record-setting performance. It's a story you got to hear.
Absolutely. Talk about defying expectations. Jasmine didn't even start training in MMA until, get this, she was 27. That's an age when some fighters are already thinking about retiring.
Seriously. Most people are just figuring out their careers at that point, not jumping into a whole new world like professional fighting. So for this deep dive, we're going to be looking at articles, interviews, anything we can find to uncover what makes Jasmine tick.
It's about going beyond her win-loss record, right? We want to understand the resilience, the adaptability, all the qualities that have shaped her into the fighter she is today.
Exactly. Think of this as your backstage pass to the world of a true trailblazer. A fighter who's constantly pushing boundaries, both inside and outside the octagon.
Now, just to give everyone some background, Jasmine Jasudavicius is a Canadian mixed martial artist. She was born on March 1st, 1989 in St. Catharines, Ontario, and she's currently competing in the UFC. But that late start, it's really a defining part of her story.
Oh, for sure. I mean, imagine walking into a gym for the first time, not as a teenager or even in your early 20s, but when you're almost 30.
It takes a special kind of courage and I think a real hunger to prove something, maybe even to yourself.
Totally.
Yeah.
And get this, initially, she wasn't even sure she would like MMA.
Really?
Yeah, she just wanted to try something new. Her first amateur fight wasn't until 2017, but she clearly caught the bug because she went pro just 2 years later in 2019.
That's insane. Talk about a whirlwind. And from there, she just kept climbing. In 2021, she earned herself a UFC contract through Dana White's Contender Series.
Massive accomplishment. That's like the ultimate proving ground for up-and-coming fighters. And get this, she was actually the first Canadian woman to get a UFC contract that way.
That's huge. And statistically, it's very rare to see that kind of meteoric rise, especially in a sport as physically and mentally demanding as MMA.
It's a testament to her talent, that's for sure, and her dedication. But her journey hasn't been without its bumps. Remember that loss against Elise Reed back in 2020 at the Cage Fury Fighting Championships?
Oh, yeah, that was a tough one. But it's also a great example of how Jasmine uses setbacks to fuel her growth.
She could have let that loss define her. But she didn't. Instead, she used it as an opportunity to learn and adapt.
From what I've read, she completely revamped her training regimen, really focused on strength and conditioning, and she even started working with a sports psychologist.
Yeah, she didn't just want to win. She wanted to understand why she lost and then do everything in her power to improve.
It's a level of self-awareness and humility that you don't always see, especially in a field where ego can often play a big part.
Totally. But that's what makes her so fascinating. She's constantly pushing herself to evolve. And, that drive to adapt, to handle whatever gets thrown at you, is something we saw in her UFC debut, too.
Ah, yes, her debut. Wasn't that originally supposed to be at a different event?
It was. They had to switch it at the last minute because of some unforeseen circumstances.
Talk about a pressure cooker. To walk into your first UFC fight with that kind of last-minute change?
It's like showing up for a big presentation only to find out the topic has been totally switched on you right before you're supposed to go on stage.
Oh, man, I'd be a nervous wreck.
But Jasmine, she just rolled with it. She adapted her game plan, kept her composure, and ended up winning by unanimous decision.
A real testament to her mental agility. And honestly, that ability to adapt is a crucial skill for everyone, not just fighters. Think about it. Life throws us curveballs all the time. Being able to adjust on the fly, to stay focused even when things go sideways, it's essential.
It's like she took that be like water philosophy and turned it into a fighting style.
I like that. Be like water in the octagon.
Adaptable, fluid, and ready to crash down on her opponent when the opportunity arises.
Speaking of opportunities, let's talk about UFC 297 in January 2024. This was the fight that really catapulted her into the spotlight. She was fighting in Canada, right?
Yep, in front of a home crowd. Must have been an incredible feeling. But then, just hours before the fight, her opponent, Priscilla Cachoeira, missed weight.
Ooh, that's a game changer. And not in a good way. I mean, how do you even prepare for something like that?
It would have been so easy for her to get thrown off, to feel frustrated, maybe even cheated. But Jasmine didn't let it faze her. She even made a joke about it on social media, something like, "Guess I'll just have to hit her harder."
That's amazing.
Seriously, talk about mental toughness. Not letting something like that derail her, it's inspiring.
It speaks volumes about her ability to compartmentalize, to stay locked in on the task at hand, and the pressure of a UFC fight, the weight of expectations, and then to have that kind of disruption and still come out on top.
And how? She absolutely dominated that fight. Set a UFC record for strike differential, landing 326 strikes while absorbing only 26. It's unheard of.
Really, 326 to 26. That's insane. It's like a whole different level of precision.
It's not just about power, it's about strategy. She's methodical, breaks down her opponents, and capitalizes on every opening. It's like a chess match, but with punches and kicks.
That's a great analogy. I'm starting to see a pattern here. Resilience, adaptability, this unwavering focus, they're the foundation of her success.
It's like she's built for this. And what's even more impressive, these are qualities that translate beyond the octagon. Whether you're facing a tough deadline at work, a personal challenge, or just trying to achieve your goals, these are tools that can help you overcome any obstacle.
Her story is a reminder that we all have the capacity to achieve extraordinary things, no matter what we're up against.
Couldn't agree more. Now, before we wrap up this part of the deep dive, I want to touch on something that's often overlooked when we talk about Jasmine's skill set.
And what's that?
Her grappling. It's top-notch. Remember, her first pro win was by rear naked choke.
Oh yeah, the classic submission hold. It's a testament to her control and technique.
Absolutely. And it's not just brute strength. It's leverage, timing, and this almost intuitive understanding of her opponent's movements.
It's like she's always one step ahead.
And then, when she's on her feet, her striking game is relentless. Constant forward pressure, wearing her opponents down. I read an interview where she said she likes to make her opponents carry her weight, both physically and mentally.
Wow, that's an interesting way to think about it. It's about breaking their spirit as much as their body.
Exactly. And I think it goes back to that mental toughness we talked about earlier. She's not just trying to win. She's trying to impose her will.
You're right. And that brings us back to that record-breaking strike differential. It wasn't just about landing punches. It was about dictating the pace of the fight, controlling the octagon.
And ultimately dismantling her opponent's entire game plan.
Talk about a masterclass in mixed martial arts.
So we've got resilience, adaptability, mental toughness, and technical brilliance. But there's another layer to Jasmine's story that we need to explore. And that's her impact beyond the sport itself.
You mean her role as a trailblazer, especially for Canadian women in MMA?
Exactly. She's become a symbol of what's possible when you have talent, drive, and the willingness to put in the work.
She's breaking down barriers, showing young athletes that they too can achieve their dreams, no matter what those dreams may be.
It's about representation, empowerment, expanding the definition of what's possible. And that, to me, is one of the most powerful aspects of Jasmine's story.
And it's so important, that visibility. It can change the whole game for young athletes.
Right. When you see someone who looks like you achieving at a high level, it makes those dreams feel so much more attainable.
It's like, okay, if she can do it, maybe I can too.
Exactly. And, it's not just about inspiring future fighters. It's about showing everyone that MMA is a sport for anyone, regardless of gender or background.
Totally. It's about breaking down those stereotypes and expanding the audience for the sport as a whole.
And honestly, that's something Jasmine does incredibly well. She's got this amazing ability to connect with people, both inside and outside the octagon.
You can just tell she's genuine, down to earth.
Yeah, she's not afraid to be herself, to show her personality. Whether she's joking around on social media, interacting with fans, or even just talking about her love for pizza.
Pizza.
Apparently she's a big fan. It's kind of become her thing. There's this great video of her making pizza from scratch, and she's talking about how it's her favorite cheat meal.
That's awesome. It makes her so relatable, It's like, yeah, she's this incredible athlete, but she's also just a regular person who enjoys good food and likes to have a laugh.
It humanizes her, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's so important, especially in a sport that's often seen as being all about aggression and dominance.
Absolutely. It shows that strength and vulnerability can coexist, that you can be a fierce competitor and still have a sense of humor and humility.
And let's be real. Who doesn't love pizza?
Seriously. But it's funny because that ability to balance intensity with lightness, I think it actually reflects in her fighting style too.
How so?
Well, she's known for her aggressive, forward-moving style. She puts a lot of pressure on her opponents. But there's also this element of playfulness, of creativity in the way she fights.
It's like she's enjoying the challenge.
Yeah.
Right? She's not just trying to win. She's trying to outsmart her opponent, to find those unexpected angles and openings.
Exactly. It's strategic, but it's also fun to watch. There's this sense of joy and freedom in her movements.
And that confidence, I think that comes from all those years of hard work and dedication.
For sure. It's the kind of confidence you earn, not something you're just born with.
And, speaking of dedication, one thing I found really interesting while researching for this deep dive is that Jasmine didn't come from a traditional athletic background. She didn't grow up playing competitive sports or anything like that.
Really? That's surprising considering how naturally gifted she is.
I know. I read that she was actually a bit of a bookworm growing up, loved reading and writing, and it wasn't until she discovered MMA in her mid-20s that she really tapped into her athletic potential.
Wow, talk about a late bloomer. But I guess it goes to show that you never really know what you're capable of until you push yourself outside your comfort zone.
Right. And I think her story can be really encouraging for people who maybe feel like they missed their chance, like they're too old to pursue a new passion or try something completely different.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that it's never too late to discover a new talent or unlock a hidden potential. And, that's something I think we can all apply to our lives, whether we're talking about sports, careers, or personal growth.
It's about embracing that growth mindset, believing in yourself, and being willing to take risks.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe you'll end up setting a few UFC records along the way.
Now that would be an amazing story. But even if you don't become a professional fighter, those same principles can help you achieve any goal you set your mind to.
It's about perseverance, resilience, adaptability, all those qualities we've been talking about today.
Jasmine's story is proof that those qualities aren't just for athletes. They're for anyone who's willing to put in the work and chase their dreams.
It's amazing how her story resonates with so many people.
It's like she's a walking, talking example of never give up.
Exactly. And it's not just about those big, flashy victories. It's those little everyday choices, that commitment to showing up and pushing yourself, even when it's tough.
Like choosing to train, even when you're sore or tired. Or deciding to analyze your mistakes instead of just brushing them off.
Exactly. It's those small decisions that add up to big results over time. Remember when we were talking about that loss against Elise Reed?
Yeah, would have been so easy for her to get discouraged after that fight.
But instead of giving up, she used that experience to level up her game. Changed her training, worked with a sports psychologist, turned a setback into a stepping stone.
It's like that saying, fall 7 times, stand up 8.
Exactly. And it's not just about winning or losing, right? It's about the process. It's about constantly striving to become the best version of yourself.
And that's something we can all learn from, even if we're not stepping into the octagon anytime soon.
Right. It's about finding that thing that lights you up, that makes you want to push your limits, and then committing to it even when it gets hard.
What's cool is that Jasmine's story is a reminder that it's never too late to find that passion. She didn't start training in MMA until her mid-20s. Imagine that.
Seriously. Most pro athletes have been training since they were kids, but Jasmine proves that you can achieve amazing things at any age, as long as you're willing to put in the work.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of Jasmine Jasudavicius, I want to leave our listeners with this thought.
All right, hit us with it.
What's one area in your life where you could use a little bit of that never give up spirit? Maybe it's a personal goal, a creative project, or even just a habit you want to change.
Yeah, think about what you've been putting off, that thing that keeps nagging at you.
Because Jasmine's story reminds us that we all have that inner strength, that resilience to achieve amazing things.
It's about believing in yourself, embracing the journey, and never losing sight of your dreams.
And who knows, maybe you'll end up setting a few records of your own along the way.